it was just a fun group of guys to, at least to put your name on, and knew these guys were going to work and try to do everything they could to win. And we turned it around quick. I mean, when we look at, wasn't long before where it was a 100 loss season. Now all of a sudden, three playoff runs in a row. It was a very exciting time.
You're good.
You're good to go. Go ahead.
Kick this thing.
All right. Here we go in 3, 2, 1. Happy March 1st, Wednesday, hump day. It's Mound visit day. Believe it or not, I don't know, where are they now? We've got special guest, dear friend, New York Yankees big wig scout, Marc DelPiano from Syracuse, New York. Del, you're not in Syracuse, New York right now. Tell us what's going on. Thanks for coming on the show here, man. It's great to have you on a Mound visit, man.
Good being with all you guys. I'm down here right now in Jupiter, Florida. I'm scouting in the big leagues here with the Yankees. So I'm covering the Mets and the Pirates in spring training, and this is the beginning of it. So I'm just doing my job here, covering the Mets, getting started, seeing if there's anything that's available to help our roster.
So it's interesting because I was actually talking to Justin about this right before we hopped on the show. And Mark, I was curious because I know you're titled, you're professional scout. So I'm assuming this is going to be a stupid question. Is that different than an amateur scout? Are you scouting the professional players that can help the Yankees rather than, going to a college game or a high school game scouting those players? Is that the difference kind of between an amateur and a professional scout?
Yeah, that's the difference. I cover two organizations plus our own. So I'm doing all professional players, trying to find out who can help us in a trade to increase, to improve our roster at the major league level. So I don't do amateur stuff anymore. Strictly the pro side, minor leagues and big leagues.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
And how'd you get into doing something like that? I know you played a little bit of professional ball yourself, but how does one become I know before this you were in player development with the Marlins. How did you get into that side of baseball, and what did that career path look like for you?
No, fellas, I grew up in Auburn, New York, and I was fortunate enough to go to junior college at the Broward Community College in Fort Lauderdale. Got a scholarship to Tennessee. After Tennessee, moved to Cleveland Indians, and I played a couple years with the Indians, a year with the Astros organization in the minor leagues, and never got out of A-ball. And I was fortunate enough to get a job, ironically, by a guy by the name of Sandy Johnson and Omar Minaya, who gave me my first opportunity to be an area scout and a coach. Signed some big leaguers as a scout, also coached in the minor leagues. And then from there, I just parlayed several different opportunities. I became a director of player development, director of international scouting, a vice president of player development, and a special assistant to two general managers. Was part of two World Series championships, got a couple rings, and really I've had a blessed life. I've enjoyed every bit of what I do. It comes with circumstances. It comes with its struggles and everything else. But overall, just been blessed to be in the game for this is year 33.
Wow,
Mark, I've always wondered this about scouts, and we've all played the game here at all different levels, and it's interesting. It's I watch a game differently and see players differently than another individual like Casey would see a player play differently. Can being a scout, is it something that can be taught, or is it something that maybe an individual has that makes them a good scout, that they have, that they can see the potential in an athlete, that they have the five tools or the talent or whatever it may be that you're looking for? Or is it a mixture of both? Where did you kind of fall into that when you were young and all that stuff?
I think overall you have to have some semblance of instinct as to what plays in the major leagues. Some of the things are self-taught, as far as the computer skills and doing those types of things. But I think innately you have to have an ability to figure out who can play in the major leagues, whether it be the body type, the athleticism, their makeup, their a physical God-given ability because everybody up there has physical skills, and now you're hedging your bet on whether or not those physical skills can catch up to the speed of the game and whether they have the mental toughness to kind of endure the grind of getting there, because you have to run a gauntlet through the minor leagues for most guys to get to the big leagues. So I do think that scouting's a combination of both, but instinctually I think you have to have a feel. Otherwise, you're just going to be very robotic, and you're not going to be able to make good decisions over a long period of time.
Isn't that that's the big, like we just talked about, the mental stuff, right? I've had my buddies on here, Sean Casey and John Buck, and guys that I've played with, the guys that are my friends, even yourself that has played. We just talked about it a little bit over our coffee this morning. Just the mental grind, like you got to be an animal. It's got to be intensity. Yeah, you could have that ability, but you're not only just competing against the guys that uh, you're playing against. Sometimes you're competing as you're going through the minor league system. You're competing against guys that are vying for the same position. So yeah, it's a kind of a catch-22 in a sense, because you want to get to the big leagues. Everybody talks about the tools that you have to have, but I think there's 5 steps in what a player wants to be, and the goals of every player, from getting drafted to making your big league debut to being an everyday player, get that contract, and then they actually want to win last, right? It's almost like you got to get all those steps in, and hopefully you're with a winning team and a winning organization. But that mental stuff, man, there's a litmus test that I think you got to get a good feel, look in guys' eyes, and that's I think the biggest key into scouting, which I know you have a great knack for.
No, that's and I've been blessed because I kind of hunt for that stuff, and I've been able to find those types of guys to bring in an organization. But it's not easy because there's a lot of factors. Some have that, but then when they get the money, they lose that. So you got to hedge your bet on, is this guy going to be motivated even after the money?
Mm.
Where someone like yourself, you never had to worry. Whatever you paid you're going to go out and you're going to try to shove every night. But that's not always the case. You know what I'm saying? It's not always the case. There's guys with all of a sudden they get that money and now they rest on those laurels and they lose their edge. They lose that killer part of them. It happens. But overall, I just think if I just try to make a calculated decision based on the guy, based on what he does on the field, his lifestyle off the field, because that's some of it too. Today's game is so different. Like, you can't burn the candle at both ends and survive. Your career would have never lasted this long if you didn't take care of your body, you didn't take care of your mind, you didn't rest, you didn't do all the necessary things to achieve. And you're just trying to find those types of guys to bring in an organization because, let's face it, if you want to have a career in this thing like I've had, you got to make better decisions all the time because it's too costly to make mistakes. You won't last long if you bring in guys that are making 10 million, 15 million, especially here in New York. You better be able to recommend people that can help the cause and do things to help the team win, or you're not going to last long.
You bring up an interesting point, especially when you talk about how different the game is now. How has your scouting had to kind of adapt at all as the game has grown and changed? And what kind of have there been things that you kind of mentioned trying to figure out if players are going to, lose that mental edge when they get that money. Have there been things that you've kind of worked into how you scout players that has changed as the year has gone on?
I think a lot of it's the market. The market determines some of what you look for. Okay. Yankees is different. You have to not only have the ability, but you got to be able to handle this New York market, which is 30 microphones in your face every night, 20 beat writers, and the scrutiny never ends, day in and day out. Not that it's any different in other organizations, just the volume of it. It's not for everybody. There are players that have had great success in smaller markets, and you put them in these big markets, and it's not quite the same. It doesn't mean they're not great major league players. But I think, Grill, you can attest to that too. There are just certain guys that can handle Boston, New York, LA, those kind of venomous markets where, if you don't perform every single night, you're gonna get chewed up. And that's something you definitely have to factor in today.
Yeah, no, I love pitching in New York and some of those big market cities, but it was nice to do it for a weekend and not for a whole week.
Yeah.
It is. It's a big energy suck. I mean, you have to really get up. And when you go from playing in a Pittsburgh into New York, whether it's against the Mets or the Yankees, you rise up because you know that crowd's in it, and vice versa. I saw the flip side last year. We had the Yankees playing here in Pittsburgh, and I went to one of those games, and it was a sellout crowd, and the energy. You could see the Pirates. They won. They won. I think it was the first game of the series. They were like, oh my God! It elevates your game. The adrenaline, if you know how to use it and you know how to rise with it, instead of be fearful and like, oh my God, there's so much nerves. I mean, like I told everybody knows that I used to throw up before I went in because I was so excited and scared at the same time. But that's what I'm talking about. Players taking that intensity. You heard Sean Casey's like he's amped up, ready to go, a little bit nervous. I mean, every player, if they're not nervous and know how to turn that game ready thing in their belly to go, hey man, I'm prepared. I'm ready to go out there and try to have the best day because I know my preparation was good. But like I said, Delp, I think too, we had success. We're coming up on the 2013 anniversary here, October 1st, the Cueto game, as everybody calls it here in Pittsburgh. A lot of those guys that you were able to bring over, Delp was very responsible for putting that team together. And thankfully, I'm happy, Delp, you could tell that story from your lens and how you brought me over from the
No,
Philly.
no, yeah,
Let's hear it.
that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. It was an ironic day. It was like I had an off day. I was back home and decided I wanted to go to a Syracuse game and to see the Chiefs just to kind of connect with some people over there, some friends. I show up and Grill's there and he's getting prepared for the game and he goes, he just looks at me and goes, I'm ready to pitch in the big leagues. Can you get me out of here? I said, well, I got to see you throw, man. I said, I got to see you throw. So it was, ironically, he was like, he comes in. I think Ryan Sandberg was managing, and he gave me the ninth inning the first night.
Rod Nichols, my pitching coach, was right there. I go, Rod, I need one inning tonight. I go, the Pirates are here to see me pitch. And I go, I'll leave my clothes at the hotel. You, man.
And the funniest thing is, Grill comes out. I think it was, he might have punched out the side, but it was like ride fastball, down slider, and the stuff was electric. And it's like, I've seen you in the past, but that down slider that you developed was like unhittable because he was throwing up in the zone with the fastball and the down break and slider. And I'm like, man, this can definitely help in the seventh inning. And I think in the eighth. Now, I didn't think he was going to be an all-star closer, if I want to be honest, but you did.
There you go.
So he does this. So the next day I go back and then I fly to Pittsburgh and I make the pitch. I make the pitch to our group and, I sold it. And the next thing you know, he comes in and I'm in the ballpark and here he is. He's got the Cardinals. He's got to run through that gauntlet. And so I'm sitting behind home plate. You remember that, Grill?
Too.
Oh, yeah.
It was Berkman, Pujols, and
Holiday, wasn't it?
Holiday, or who was the other lefty they had? Oh my God, it was a big lefty that they had in their line. I don't know. It was a good.
It was like pop up, strikeout, pop up, and I'm sitting there going in behind home plate, going yes. Yeah, it was a great night. So that was a thrill. But bringing in him and then.
Go ahead.
I had a good run. I was very fortunate. Pittsburgh was it was a wonderful time in my life because, I had some autonomy to do some things. My recommendations were heard. We had a good group collective that worked together. And, when I was just able to make recommendations that worked, between AJ and Grill and Russell and Melanson. It was just a fun group of guys to, at least to put your name on and knew these guys were going to work and try to do everything they could to win. And we turned it around quick. I mean, when we look at, wasn't long before where it was a 100 loss season. Now all of a sudden, 3 playoff runs in a row. It was a very exciting time.
Well, in fairness to you, man, I'm not just saying this because you're a friend of mine and we're on air, but you can make a great general manager. I think that's a spot that's calling your name, and I know timing's everything and the fit, but I highly recommend you, just the way you're scouting players, from what your run is and how you've compiled things and helping organizations win. I mean, for you to have 2 rings and the teams that you've turned around, I mean, I hope to God, if that's even in your eyesight still, I think you'd make an amazing general manager, Del.
No, I appreciate it, Grill. I'm certainly prepared for it. I've done about every job in baseball operations, and I think I could do it if given the opportunity. But I appreciate your endorsement. I'll take it.
We
Yep.
have the first endorsement right here on this show. You heard it here, folks.
Yep.
It's funny. I got to be honest. Listening it from this side of the stands.
Yeah.
You think of Grill. I got to tell you, man, it's a testament to you. And I mean, you literally selling yourself in
It is. You
AAA
wouldn't think
to
of
Mark.
that.
You don't
Yeah.
think that it happens
Right.
that way, but the fact that you're fighting for yourself, like, hey, man, I'm going back to the major leagues, and you're telling a scout that. Obviously, you know him, but still, you're telling him that. And to do that, you feel like I feel like everyone else thinks that like they come to you
Right.
and say, hey, we're taking you up, not the other way around. So kudos to you for fighting for your spot like that. That's a
It's
great
cool to be-
story. I've never heard that story.
I mean, if you want to be an Iron Pig, it's cool, right? But what's cooler is playing in the big leagues.
Yeah. And the other thing too, Grill, is what people fail to realize is your numbers were dominant in AAA. It wasn't like he went there and just flipped up some, cute little numbers. I mean, these were dominant numbers. Big strikeouts per nine, no walks. It's like it jumped off the page. Analytically, you're looking at it and going, this guy doesn't belong here. And then when you see the physical, pure raw stuff, you're like, oh yeah, no, it's time.
I had to prove another guy wrong. Chuck Lamar, I asked him, I'm like, dude, listen, I got a sub one, and I'm punching out two guys an inning, and I signed here because the Phillies needed a eighth inning guy, and that's why they signed me. And so even guys like Cliff Lee and Roy Halladay, they were kind of pissed. I know Cliff Lee was, because after I saw them in the big leagues when I made, they're like, dude, I don't know what the heck they're thinking. We needed you over here. I said, sorry, man. I said, I just wanted to be in the big leagues. And I told Chuck, I go, I'm taking my out. So I love telling that story because transaction-wise, it says the Phillies released me, but I actually released them. And I had some for them. And I wanted to shove it up the Phillies' ass anyway because of that. So it was, like you said, guys, you got to fight. You're fighting for that jersey. Honoring the name on the back of the jersey the same way you do on the front, as I showed you what I got behind me. I've spoken about it before. Every guy's trying to do that, and when somebody's trying to rip that uniform off you, guys, at Top 100, I tell these kids, I'm fighting for these young kids to keep their uniform as long as possible. Go play where you can play. I mean, this game it's a blessing, and it hurts when you rip the uniform off, right, Delp? I mean, the further we get away,
it's hard, man. The hardest day of my life. I mean, I was released twice, and you're like sitting there going, "What am I going to do with my life now?" Because it's all you ever worked for. Yeah. Can't imagine your situation. You played so long. Right? How many years total?
I played 20 years professionally, man.
Yeah, that's a long time, man. That's
It was a blessing, and like I said, to run into guys like you and develop deep friendships. That's what sucks about it now. I just talked to AJ Burnett yesterday. Just about, the phone used to go, hey, man, you want to go grab breakfast? You want to go meet up after the game, hang out, go to these guys' rooms, and just, kind of like college dorm stuff. And you're praying with guys and just kind of dealing with situations that, some of your teammates don't know about on just a personal level. And you miss that. You miss seeing everybody in the hallway at the stadium down below. Things are happening underneath, but people and the fans don't understand what's going on at 12:30, 1 o'clock before 7 o'clock game time.
I know, no doubt. I know. And that's some of that. Those are great memories. You can't ever replace them, really.
Right.
Mark, I wanted to, if you could kind of paint the picture for us. What's it like when you have an athlete like a Jason Grilli and you have to walk into the room with all the other scouts and the management team? What's kind of like the intensity there, the atmosphere that you're trying to sell a player that you really like? You're trying to bring them up, or you're trying to acquire, or whatever it may be. Can you give us like a little bit, maybe have a story you could share? Not too crazy, but what is that like in there when you're trying to sell, the staff on a kid to bring him in?
And the audience determines that. Like, for example, when I was talking to Neil about Grill, he was very receptive, and I talked about the difference of him in Colorado and Detroit, and the things he altered in his delivery and his stuff that makes him a real good fit for us now. Then I got to go downstairs and do the same with Clint. So I'm trying to, Clint Hurdle, and I'm trying to talk him into doing this. And Clint had experience with Jason, and he was, at the time he's listening. He wanted to know what I said, and he goes, "Hey, Delp, if you're all in, I'm all in." So it was for that worked out well. And there's others where you make these kind of pitches and it doesn't work out. But in the end, I just like to keep score.
Truth be told, he had an amazing PowerPoint presentation on his laptop. Slides, there's a lot of details, good bullet points.
That did have bullet points. It just wasn't scripted on. It wasn't scripted on a computer. But I did. You run through where he's a fit. And I've always kind of stuck to like a profile for a player. And if I can put a player in a profile, I can sell it better. And I profiled Grill as a late inning setup guy. So now you can get a visual of where this guy fits in the ball game. Versus, hey, he's just a middle reliever. He's got a chance to be a fifth starter. I thought in my mind he can pitch in the end of the game. Back end of the game. But I didn't think all-star closer. You earned that one. But I did think you could set up for sure.
So which Mark, I felt eighth inning.
Oh, go ahead, Jason.
I said the eighth inning was actually more pressure-packed than the ninth, only because
you said that before, yeah.
I say it all the time. You watch it, if you don't appreciate the setup guy,
the up and downs. The up downs.
Right? Well, it's that and you're 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5 every night, 95% of the time. The way the lineup rolls over, you're facing the all-stars of the league every night. So if I was thinking I was going to make an all-star team, and I know I was real close, and Sweeney was on MLB Network, and he and Casey were vying for me. They were making an argument in 2012 for me. But again, I know there's a lot of guys that I don't want to focus a lot about me because I want to shift it to sidebar where, you said profiling players. We're talking about some of my experiences, but I think we're talking to not just an adult audience, but a young audience for what we do in Top 100 Sports. And you talk about profiling players. Is there anything you can say as a scout for these kids? I just was with Scott Brown, the pitching coach of Vanderbilt. And there's all these, perfect games and PBRs and even what we do at Top 100. There's differentiations in what we do. And I said my theme is I want to help keep these kids' uniform on, or guys that are in the independent balls and minor leagues and even the pros. You want to keep on as long as possible. What advice can you give these kids that are listening, or dads that are listening, like, hey, man, like back off, get some exposure, but this is about the right kind of exposure that would impress someone like you, or how to go through that process?
I think we've gotten to the point where the game, just playing the game and the pureness of the game is kind of evaporated. It's sort of a pay-to-play environment. Fine, it's not going away. But what I encourage kids to do is play as much baseball as you can to get better, because the game gets you better. Practice helps, but the games determine what you need to work on and where your skill level lies. So the more games you play, the better you're going to be. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that. We train and we train and we train, but we don't play enough baseball games. And I think if I look back at my career, where I made a big jump was coming from Auburn, New York to Fort Lauderdale, the junior college. Went from playing 30 high school games, maybe 40 in the summer league, to now 55 in the fall, 78 in the spring. So I know my jump came from playing the game of baseball, where I think today we focus so much on the training element of it that we've lost that competitive, this is a team, it's us against you. We've got to do some things fundamentally correct to win. It's not all about how hard you throw, how far you hit it, but can you execute skills in the game? I think the players that do that are going to put themselves in a better position to have a lengthier career and go from level to level. I think some of that we've lost in the game today with our youth, but playing to me is it's critical.
It's really interesting you say that, because I think, and I remember, and this is the second time I brought him up on this podcast, but one of my old travel coaches that I played with, Lloyd Quick, he told us we got our asses kicked one tournament, and he kind of pulled us together after the game. A lot of it was just like stupid mental mistakes that we were making. It wasn't necessarily like the fact that I did pitch and I got shelled, but that's not the important part. It's not exactly that part, but it was those mental mistakes. And he was like, look, you guys just don't play enough baseball. He was like, when I was growing up, we went to a sandlot every day after
old
school, pretty
Sandlot
much.
story.
But it was true, and he was
Yeah.
just like, that was how we learned not only like kind of basic rudimentary fundamentals, but like that was how we learned the ins and outs and situations of the game. We learned that ourselves. We didn't have necessarily a coach explaining all of that step by step to us, and we weren't out there, working on our top hand, bottom hand necessarily every day. We were playing the game. And it's interesting you say that because that's something that's always stuck with me is like, we just don't play the game enough as kids nowadays.
And at this level,
No,
too, oh, go ahead.
No, and I grew up in Auburn, but we had two awesome, fundamentally sound coaches. And that little town's got some big leaguers. I mean, we've got Timmy LaCastro in the big leagues now.
Yeah.
Steve Lombardozzi, World Series champion, big leaguer. Kevin Polkovich played for the Pirates, big leaguer. I mean, you're talking about a town of 30,000 people, but we had several guys that played in the minor leagues as well. And I think the key was we grew up in fundamental baseball. It was taught to us at a very young age and all throughout our high school career. I mean, that's what we did. We worked individually, but the team fundamentals were critical. I think some of that it's been lost because it's all showcase stuff mentality. And I think you see it in the level of play, no matter where you go, minor leagues, big leagues. But that's the thing. I think I was blessed because I played for two guys when young that taught us that. And it helped so many of us in our careers.
Well, I can tell you, I was down at Vandy. Sorry, Just I was just down at Vandy. Fundamentals of what these guys were working on and their pregame routine and what that coaching staff and that program. I think kids need to see, and that Vandy's kind of that school that everybody wants to go to because it's one of the number one, if not the number one program. People know that just what brings the clout there. But just watching those guys and what they work on, I brought my son down there to dangle that carrot and inspire him, and motivate him. It's I think the collegiate level, wouldn't you agree, is probably the go between really where these kids from the emphasis of this travel ball and high school ball to the brand of baseball that's being played collegiately. It's like those coaches to me have the biggest pressure. And the state of our game rests in their hands, in a sense,
Oh, and a lot of it does, yeah, for sure, because that's the next level before professional baseball. I agree.
It's interesting with the younger groups because I think what has happened and transpired, and I'm talking 9U to 15U, 16U, what has transpired now is there's that mentality of winning tournaments. Teams are now put together at the younger age groups, these travel teams, where they're to win tournaments. And that's kind of the mentality more so over real, true development over athletes. And it's funny, Grilli, you bring up college. And Delp, this. I mean, in college, they practice a billion times more than they do play games. So maybe it just depends on what level, you're at. But definitely gone are the days of kids coming together and playing at a sandlot. Those days are far.
Oh, man, we used to play pickup ball all summer long. It was so much fun. If you didn't have enough guys, you closed off right field and you only hit the left field and all that. Or you'd close off left field as a right-handed hitter and force you to learn how to hit the ball to the right side. But I do agree with you. Those days are gone.
So, Mark, what is it in Auburn? Is it the water? Is it the prison over there? Like, what is going on with these athletes coming out of there, man?
Well, we had, the funny thing is it was just a great feeder program for a long time. I mean, we had 7 guys on my high school team sign professional contracts out of college. But it was just, we had the double days growing up, so we were always at a pro park. So I saw a lot of major leaguers, come through there at the A-ball level. And all of these names I'm talking about, we were all baseball junkies. We were down there. That's how we spent our summer nights. I mean, my whole summer was spent at Falcon Park. I mean, I can vividly remember.
It's a cool stadium.
Yeah, playing our games, going there. That was our high school home field. We packed it. The community supported it. So, you went there, and that was just, that's how we grew up. And I think because we were good, generations behind us just wanted to continue to, we won a state championship. We were always in the run for it, and everybody wanted to play baseball back then. Probably it's different now. LaCastro is probably the last one. But we had, I'm just thinking of the names of the names. You guys probably don't even know them, but Bob Capisser, AAA, TJ Gamba, AA. We had Mike Jedra, AA. These are our high school teammates. Gary Delaney got to AA.
Wow.
It's just nobody really realizes it. But it was all because of the feeder program, and we just played all the time.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And Mark, real quick, we actually have, before we let you go, we had a couple of listeners send in some questions for you to answer. If you wouldn't mind, if we run through a couple
No,
rapid
go
fire
ahead.
questions with you?
Yeah, go.
Awesome.
His baseball card, show everybody what a looking dude he was, and not only a stellar athlete, but he had some models back in the day,
Yeah. Unfortunately, I couldn't hit. That's what made me a scout.
You had a good I looked at your baseball reference page. You had a good on base percentage your last year with the Astros.
That's about
so you
it.
got that to hang your hat on.
He says that's about it.
So one of our questions was if you wouldn't mind, someone asked, what does a day in the life of a professional scout actually look like? What is that day to day?
Oh, I can paint this picture just because of what I'm going through right now. I mean, it's cyclical. So certain things during the course of the calendar year I do differently. Like right now in spring training, I get up in the morning, I write reports just of guys that I think can help our roster out. Then I get to the ballpark early, watch batting practice, watch all the pregame work, evaluate the game, watch the entire game. You usually go back, grab a bite to eat, and then get back on the computer again, do more research on players that I like that I think can help our club. Once the regular season starts, I cover the Pirates, the Mets, and the Yankees, and I cover them from the big leagues to A-ball. With our organization, the Yankees, I go from the major leagues all the way to the Dominican Summer League. So I've kind of got a running total. I've evaluated every player in our system, and I give Cash basically my opinion on all the players as well as a ranking of all of them. Once I get through with our system, then I go and I do what they call a self-advance. I self-advance our major league club for about 6 weeks, in which I will basically do an audit on our club. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? How are teams going to attack us once the playoffs start? So I do that in a tandem with another scout. We spend 6 weeks. We break up the pitching and the hitting, and then we kind of give our synopsis to the major league staff, as well as Cash and ownership. And after that, I'll do playoff advance, where I'll scout teams that we're going to play in the playoffs. And that'll take me to usually Halloween. I might get sent on an assignment to the Dominican to go look at someone in winter ball, Dominican or Venezuela, to see if it's a guy worthwhile adding as a non-roster invite or potential 40-man ad. And that'll take you right to the holidays, and then you blink and you're here, and here we are. Wow. That's kind of my life in a calendar year as a Yankee, and it's different for everybody. But that's sort of my responsibilities here going to the 2023 season.
Hopefully, in that track, one of the perks that I loved, and this is maybe off the path, but eating out at some cool places and restaurants. What's your favorite spot? Spring training spot. You got to have a spot in Jupiter down there. There's got to be some good seafood.
There's great. There's great. There's 1000 North that's owned by Tiger Woods. It's a great restaurant on the water here in Jupiter. There's a couple dive bars, like Jumbie Bay. If you want great wings, the Thirsty Turtle Grill. You remember the Thirsty Turtle, probably.
That's a Thirsty Turtle. There's one in
Rochester. Yeah, that was it's kind of a legend. That's the place down here, and I'm not going to say it compares to Change of Pace wings, but they win all the wing.
They win all the Change of Pace.
They win all the wing. They win all the wing awards down here in Palm Beach County. So I got my little spots everywhere.
Nice.
There you go.
And the Change of Pace got to plug. Casey, have you ever had the chicken wings from my dad's famous sports bar right up the road?
I know. I haven't
Justin's
had it yet.
Got to find that.
I know.
That's
you guys got to try it. Come on, fellas.
He's got to take off work because we keep talking about this. Justin's holding out.
I know.
On him, man.
We'll get him over there. We'll take him through the whole thing. We will. It's going to happen. We should do the podcast from there. The next guys. You know what I mean? Right from.
That's a great idea. You guys should do that.
Yeah.
When you know what, Grill? That's not a bad idea.
Not on wings.
Yeah.
Get back up spring training. Let's do that. We'll get Delp back on the show. Maybe bring Brownie or somebody, another Syracuse, John Ratliff. There's a bunch of guys from the past in Syracuse that have, put some cleats and some nice dirt in the pros, man. So
Oh yeah, you
I'll
got a
speak.
bunch. You got a bunch. Chris Jones. Chris Jones played 20 years professionally, Grill, from
Yeah,
Liverpool.
well, again, I keep giving you accolades, man. We're talking to Marc DelPiano, Yankee scout. He's a legend and should be in the Syracuse Hall of Fame as well. This guy's doing it. He's still doing it, man. And just appreciate you coming on our good show here, Mound Visit. We talk about everything, baseball, life, restaurants, whatever. You know,
We
It's
stuff
love
a,
we like.
food on this show. If you haven't already figured that out, yeah,
no, it's a
we
pleasure to
definitely
be
love
on,
the food.
fellas, and thanks for thinking of me.
Absolutely, we appreciate your time so much.
Thanks, Mark.
Seriously,
Yep.
this was a treat. I hope everybody out there enjoyed listening to this. Really cool insight from a professional scout and getting to hear what that routine looks like and get some of your thoughts. Like Jason said, we'll have to have you back on because I know there are some other questions I had, other questions people had that I think we could even spend a whole nother 40 minutes talking about.
Yeah, and
So,
Mark, from Yankee family here, we just want to tell you, no pressure, man, but let's get that ring this year, huh?
Let's
you
go,
get one
please.
for the Mets too, because that's
No
we,
pressure. If,
we're
Yankees.
Mets fans as well, just me, but
yeah,
that's all right.
if you need me in that room selling some guys, just let me know, man. I'll be right next to you. We're gonna get that ring together.
I appreciate it.
I have a feeling that Hood will for a ring when they do win. It's been a minute. It's going to be a very big one if they do.
It'll be good. It'll be
Yeah,
fun for sure. That's the goal.
There we
Del,
go.
thanks for coming.
Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome,
Thank
guys.
you,
Thanks
Mark.
for having me.
Don't get too much sunburn, man. Bring it back to sun up north,
Sunscreen,
man.
down to 30. Yeah.
Appreciate you guys.
Hope you guys enjoyed that interview with Marc DelPiano, professional scout. Pretty awesome insight there, and a lot of things that you wouldn't think of when you watch the game of baseball. But these are the people that are making the game go round in a sense.
It's incredible. The story that still sticks out for me is Grilli literally telling
Asking him,
DelPiano in the stands, listen, I'm going back up to the majors. And he willed his way into that.
Oh, yeah.
And had a great outing. DelPiano saw it live, saw a slider that he was been working on, his lightning stuff, as he said, and it got him up there. I mean, like we said, you don't think it happens that way.
Mhm.
You wouldn't, but it's a testament to Grilli that, like on Top 100 Sports, we say own your game.
yeah,
Take ownership of it.
really,
That means not just how you train, how you play, but also where do you want to go. And he took the reins over, and he's like, "Get me up there."
yeah.
Well, and to what he said,
You want to be an Iron Pig, but you also
Yeah.
it's cooler to be in the big leagues. Yeah,
No doubt about
yeah,
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, it is really cool, and it just to think of and hearing him. Now I go to the general manager and I talk about what I liked when I saw with Grilli. I go to Clint Hurdle, the manager. It's just a lot of things that you don't necessarily think of
Constantly
as a fan
selling.
watching the day. Exactly.
Crazy.
It's really, really cool. So, anyways,
There needs to be more of that, I feel
Yes.
like. Right?
Yeah.
I feel like the fans would really like
Yes.
to hear
Behind
more
the
of those
scenes
stories.
is really, really cool. We're gonna have to get Mark back on here again.
We got to do
because-
this again.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, just really, really cool stuff because I know even just for myself, someone, and I'm sure you too, but someone who's watched baseball my entire life, the scouting aspect is something that you just think about. You're like, okay, well, the general managers are the ones who they can't
Right.
do that all
It's just
themselves.
them.
Right.
No,
people like Mark.
It's
are,
really a team, with management. It's a team with the scouts. It's everything. It's pretty
Awesome.
cool.
really cool stuff.
Good guess. That was awesome.
Really good. Yeah. Well, again, like we said, we hope you guys enjoyed that. And if you have any questions for our guests in the future, if you have questions for Jason, feel free to send them in. We'll do our best to get them answered. Sometimes we ramble, so we apologize. But anyways, you guys can follow us, subscribe to our channel, Top 100 Sports Network on YouTube. Like the videos, leave us comments, anything you guys want. And then follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Top 100 Sports Net, NET. We're growing slowly but surely, but we've
One
got
day at a
really
time.
cool guests coming on. So
Yes.
this is really exciting. And again,
It's even more exciting, and it's better when we get the engagement from the audience. Ask the
exactly.
questions. We want to get you guys engaged into this as well as more speakers and guests that we have that come on here. So appreciate the follows thus far.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got some special stuff planned with some of our top 100 sports affiliates that we're going to be rolling out soon.
Yes.
Getting some of their questions and having some interaction with our guests. So if you guys want to learn more about that, check out top100sports.com and feel free to, interact, like you said, and just keep following and consuming the content. We love bringing it to you. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.